Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Chuck. What's up? How you doing, Chuck? You've been here the whole time. We all remember Chuck
Yeah,
from the past 10 years. What's going on, man?
I've never missed a show, and I think it shows in the chat. The community people will support me, so good. It's happy to be here. Happy New Year, everybody. Vince, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, of course. I'm happy to have you here, man. Thank you for being available on New Year's Day here as we ring in this glorious 2025 with everyone. A new year, a new exciting time. A few snowflakes fell today. Like, actually, I haven't had any snow this year. I like a little bit of snow. I wanted to, you wanted around Christmas, but
Hmm.
didn't happen. We got a rainy Christmas here where I am. Probably the same for you, I imagine. But hey, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, I had
Before,
some
oh, good.
snowflakes this morning, and I apologize, Vince, if I have a small lag.
You're okay, buddy. You're okay. All right. Chuck's gonna work on his thing there real quick. Well, while he's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this super chat that came
I
in.
have a small lag going on, Vince. Yeah, yeah. So let
Yeah, I
me
see.
go. I'll go cameraless for a few minutes here.
That's fine. That's fine. You're good, brother. You're good. David Canty with a super chat saying, "New year, new project. I took 220 clan rats. I have 360 painted to Nova this year, going 4 and 4. This year I am going IJ all ghostly pigs. Could you suggest a speedy ghostly paint scheme to do a lot of gore Mogruntas?" Sure. Well, I mean, the classic speedy ghost paint job is just like some kind of very strong white or white blue zenithal. Then you hit them with some kind of like, one of the contrast paints that's all about ghosty colors, right? And that's fine. You could also choose to just make like the pigs themselves ghosty, or make like certain elements real, like the weapons real, have them be more steel, more rusty weapons, something like that. That might make break it up some and still be pretty fast. Like have the weapons or the tusks or a few metal pieces be real and rusty, so it looks like they're kind of manifesting. Would be, I think, a cool touch that isn't just like the whole thing done in one monochromatic scheme. So that'd be my suggestion. Hope that helps. For all the rest of you,
I would
oh,
say,
go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead, Chuck.
I say a couple. Is 8 years ago, 7 years ago at Nova. I played a gentleman. He had a KO army that was the ghost theme, but all the ship, every piece of metal was rusted, whereas everything that was not metal was ghostly, and actually came out really nice. Like it was from distance, you're like, oh, it's someone had to paint an army quick, but you got close, and like, oh no, that looked really nice.
Exactly. I think if you just pick out some of the metals and stuff like that, it actually does make it look weird, like strangely good. It's a nice contrast. So, and it doesn't take that much extra time. So there you go. Dadbod Napgod throwing in the super chat, $10, saying, "Here's to another 52 weeks of Warhammer Weekly." That's right. Whoop whoop. Yeah, hit like, hit subscribe, do all those things. Super chat is available. Tom's new microphone is on his way to him right now, so thank you to everybody who's participated in that. This is just the New Year super chat of being cool, being a cool person. That's all it is. But hey, uh, Troll Painting Mini said, "Happy New Year. I'm working on some fodder for Turnip 28. Very nice. There you go. Okay. That's a very cool game. I like that. I like the vibe of that. Um,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about AOS hopes and dreams and goals, and Chuck, what we want to see out of the year. Okay. And we'll go from there. What am I fundraising for now? Nothing in particular. Just you like the
For
channel and want to help us celebrate. That's all.
for every dollar donated, Vince will pet his dog once.
There you go. That
His
is
one of
that.
his dogs.
I am really happy to live up to that thing. Boy, if that's true, I'm owed a lot of dollars. Um, yeah, Matt, that is the strength hammer. That's right. That's right, Matt. Absolutely, you bet. Happy New Year, TP. Hope you're doing well. Big Ron, Happy New Year. Lots of Happy New Years in the chat. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So, but first off, we've got some news, of course.
Hmm.
Uh, and Martin with a super chat saying, "Welcome to the 10 plus shows Platinum Miles Club, Chuck." There you go. That's right. Oh, is this? Wow.
I'm
Martin
glad
is
someone's
keeping
counting. I
track.
haven't been.
Yeah. This
Boom.
month, by the way, will be our, like, later at the end of the month. I got to figure out exactly how we're going to do it. But at the end of the month, this will, Chuck, be this year, the end of January of this year, is our 10-year anniversary for doing Warhammer Weekly. That's right. Well, we don't want to pre-celebrate. We're not pre-gaming. I'm just saying it is coming later in the month. So there you go.
I hope there's another 6-hour Slanesh episode-a-thon again.
Yeah, it's gonna be a significant one. It'll be serious. Star Slayer throwing into 20 there, saying Happy New Year. One of the rare cases where I catch you live. May the battle scrolls of 2025 be as good as the one from December of 2024. Boy, Star Slayer, that is a goal. I agree. We're gonna talk about that. Do not worry. I fully am aligned with that one. 100%. Okay, let's hit some news. First off, we got our announcement. Chuck, it's here. It's coming. Pre-order is this weekend. The Auric War Clans book. So for your Iron Jaws and your Swamp Bogglers. Now, the fact that this whole thing has been spoiled online has diminished some people's excitement. Not mine. Not mine. I've gotten to play with the new tome a little, and I'll talk about it more next week when we review it. But I am in an okay place. And that's largely because of the battle scroll, the thing I can talk about. The battle scroll, I think it does more for our army than anything else, but we'll see. We'll see. I know you're not an Iron Jaws or a Swamp Bogglers player there, Chuck. Unfortunately.
Actually, I do have 1,000 points of Iron Jaws.
Okay.
It's my Path to Glory army.
There you go.
So much to my chagrin, I will be buying the endless spells and the terrain feature because I can't help myself, even though I don't like them. I love the models. I don't like I'm like you. Models are great. I don't like the use case, but yeah. But hey, I'm happy that some books are coming out. Yeah, we won't dive into the leaked bit of that. Other people have done that, but yeah. Here's hoping that the next book is gonna blow us away.
That's right. That's right. That's right, Eric. Yes, the Empire of Man pre-orders are up as well. For if you want a little more old school flair to your COS models, if you like that classic Empire feeling, you can get the sometimes slightly remastered sculpts, the ones without that don't mention, which is actually quite useful, admittedly, for AOS as well. The ones that don't mention Karl Franz because they remodeled them to get rid of the Karl Franz references. So there you go. So that's cool.
That's a weird thing, actually, because I also enjoy retro video games as one of my other hobbies. So, like,
yes.
Conserving and saving these old video games is kind of an interesting thing, and the companies don't care. And this is the first time I've had that thought in Warhammer. So the old kits that say Karl Franz technically going away, like preserving them, it's a weird, like, it's not correlate 1-to-1. It's definitely apples to oranges, but like the thought popped in my head. I'm like, those are gone forever.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah. That's right. But that's okay. It's like I've got my original. I have a original Huracanum and an original Luminarch, as it were. From for that. So for my Cities of Sigmar army, but my first cities, I have 2 Cities of Sigmar armies, and one of them I have that stuff, and then so good to go. And then I have an updated Luminarch and Huracanum that are on like crazy 40k tech pieces because that was my second Cities of Sigmar army. So sadly, the new ones didn't encourage me to do another one. We did get a little rules preview I thought we'd talk about here. Speaking of which, we got the rules for the tower yesterday or whatever for this new terrain piece for Iron Jaws. And thanks, I hate it. So it's this boss rock tower, aggressively bossy. You pick a visible unit within 18 inches of the terrain feature to be the target. You roll a die. If you've got a shouty boss, meaning if there's somebody in there, I assume you get +1 of the roll, so it's on a 3-up. On a 4-up, you get to pick one of the following effects: subtract 3 from the target's control score, subtract 1 from casting rolls and/or chanting rolls, and subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for the target. Now, the last one is actually the only good one. The other 2 are dumb because no one's going to wander their casters to within range of your tower. They'll just attack and blow up your tower if that's what they need to do. But I like the charge -1, so I guess now you just get an item that says, why does the Swamp Bogglers, a debuff army, like a tricksy army that has a lot of things that affect the enemy, why does their tower buff them? But the Iron Jaws, which is an army that wants to like get pumped up and then go fight, why does their tower debuff the enemy? I swear sometimes it's like I don't know. I don't know. I
I
have no
would say
explanations for this.
I would say just before you go to any event with Iron Jaws, just roll that dice at home and see if you even take it on a 4+. Take it
Right?
and
Yeah,
do the
yeah,
shenanigans on a one
yeah.
through
On a
three.
4+,
Leave it at
just don't
home
even
and don't bring
bother
it.
to set up your tower. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Just don't even bring it. Don't even put it in the bag.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, not excited so far by this tower, but hey, that's okay. That's fine.
Well, the
Uh,
Empire Tower on wheels was pretty exciting. That's too far to go into, but that's a
sure.
good tower.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I could see more stuff for that. Other news item here, and then this is Vince remembering that he needs to get his notebook to timestamp things. So doing that right now. But other news things here, real quick. The Chuck, the model of the year stuff is in.
It, yeah, it is, and I'm actually excited for it for once. I'm still upset from years ago when Marathi lost to some Slanesh Noise Marine shenanigans, but
Sure.
I'll never let that die. But I kind of enjoyed this one that they split it out, so it's great.
Yeah, we don't have to just lose to 40K models anymore. That's
Right.
nice. So yes, now we have our Warhammer Age of Sigmar miniature of the year. Of course, Usharon, completely unsurprisingly. Uh, so that's fun. I mean, I think I've made my feelings on Big Oosh well known on this channel, but congratulations on your victory. I'm sure
Hmm.
he's celebrating with a royal feast. And then Vizek Scour, and coming in second place. I am a little offended that my beautiful, perfect rat god took second place to Usharon, but that's all right. We'll let it go this time. All part of the great plan, I'm sure. Abraxia coming in third place. Grombrindil in fourth, and then a random Chaos Sorcerer Lord in fifth. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I'm mostly pleased that Grombadil made it up there. Ushron seemed like a solid pick, so did the new Rat God and Abraxia. So those weren't really surprising, but I voted for Grombadil on my end
Nice.
because it was just a great sculpt. So and I have it in my Sigmar KO army, and I also bought one to throw back into the old world. So great sculpt, and I'm happy to see it enshrined for this year.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, it is a very beautiful, beautiful miniature, no doubt about it. The top 10 was rounded out with new Rat Ogres support, Marshall Ashfield and Squire Udo, Crethusa the Crone Seer, the Steel Rook, and Tornus the Redeemed. Okay, there you
Solid
go.
stuff. Always see Doc up there is always a good feeling too.
Yeah, I mean, I always call her Cthulhu. I don't know why I add that L. I didn't realize I was doing it until Dino made a perfect meme just for me, where he was like, "Do it." He did the Friends meme where it's she's talking to Joey and she's like, "Kre kre the z z Cthulhu," right? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, nailed it.
So, at any rate, the Chaos Sorc Lord and being in fifth is very funny. He just looks like a normal Chaos Sorcerer Lord to me. Like I didn't think he was anything that
I,
remarkable.
my only guess is it's the old world community like myself that had to vote for somebody
Oh sure,
in that category. They're like, I've ported that over.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, so, but hey, that's cool. Um, good all overall. And then down here, we should talk about the best of the rest. This was everything else that wasn't AOS or 40K, where Old World made a huge showing.
Hmm.
The Lich Priest on Necrolith Bone Dragon coming in first, which I'm not a huge fan of actually as a miniature. I think it's like way too busy and too much going on, and I don't like his dumb head. But second place, Lady Elise Duchard, one of the most beautiful miniatures
Hmm.
I think that
Yep.
GW has ever produced. Period. Ever. Like just ever, ever, ever. Uh,
Please put it back in stock.
like no joke. This thing has been like they had like none of these available originally. It sold out so
I
fast.
It's one of the only pre-orders I've done where I was there a minute before when it went up, and within the 10 seconds of my computer loading to the store to buy that model, it had sold out.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it was very
exactly.
quick. I mean, it worthwhile. It's great.
It's such a beautiful model. Like, I mean, this is like, this is what I want to see out of the old world. I wish they would bring, like, clearly they have sculptors of great talent, and I wish they would do more stuff like this. So, but anyways, Lady Elise is just incredible. I hope she comes back in stock sometime soon. Yes,
Hmm.
Martin said she's been out of stock since April. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's just crazy. And then the Thousand Suns and this thing, which okay, and then this Alpha Legion dude. All three of these are pretty boring to me, but that's fine. Uh, the Bretonian Lord on Royal Pegasus was next up, which I do think is like an
Hmm.
incredible kit. Have you painted the new Lord on Peg,
Yeah,
Chuck?
I have three. I have the essentially the noble with a lance version, a BSB version, and then I kit bashed a enchantress riding one side saddle. So I painted that thing 3 times.
Nice, nice. It's
Hmm.
such a good kit, man. Again, this is what I'm talking about. Like when they've done new kits for the old world for some of these new things, they're just really good.
Hmm.
Um, so, anyways, the Chaos Dwarf Blood Bowl team, the Dwarf Lords with Shield Bearers, the Malstrain Gene Stealer Abomination Gang, and the Questing Knight Paladin. Also a good one. Yeah, he's really good
Hmm.
too.
Hey, yeah, don't sleep on that the dwarf on shield bearers, because that is a solid kit. I picked up two to have a BSB and a lord on it, but there's a lot of character in there, and it's very clearly showing. I think even more so than the Bretonian stuff, the evolution of what was the next step if they had
Yeah,
not if we weren't in Sigmar and it was just continuing of the old dwarf line, and it's a step up without being a step away like Sigmar
yeah,
is,
yeah.
which rightfully so it should be.
That makes sense. You know me, dwarves in the old world and dwarves in more or less any setting, not for me. Not for
Fair.
me. But it is a beautiful kit, like I must admit, like setting aside my personal tastes and aesthetics, it is like a very well done kit. It's just that, like, Lady Elise and the Lord
Oh
on
yeah.
Pegasus, like Bretonia, this is the stuff I'm here for with the old world. I love my Bretonian army, and I love these new knight kits. I just think they're incredibly good. So there you go. Um, I'm sure that 2025. I look forward to Fulgrim's inevitable victory next year. We released on like on day one of the year, basically. The winning model for 2025 was revealed. So how
Yep.
nice for
Hmm.
them. Like what is going to beat Fulgrim? Nothing in the 40k
Uh,
world. So that's fine.
yeah, in 40K, yeah. The only thing that could compete is if they're like, hey, here's Malarian or Tyrion. That's the
Yeah,
only
sure.
models I can think in the whole scope of things to compete against that.
Which I mean, like, look, I know you're an elf sympathizer, especially in
Hmm. Hmm.
across many worlds. I understand that. That's fine. I will say I could go for either of those this year. We'll talk about it in our goals. All right, but first,
Hmm.
before we get into that, that's more or less all our news. So good stuff. Congratulations to all the winners. Bring Lady Elise back into stock. What's the matter with you, people? All right.
Um, did you announce that they brought back Warhammer Heroes?
Oh, I didn't say that. Sorry. Yeah, that was my other
Oh,
item.
okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, Warhammer Heroes here. So it's back. You can like vote and stuff. So if you know somebody in the community, if you have a local organizer, somebody who's really going beyond, who's running tournaments, who's doing stuff, who's building your community, go nominate them on the Warhammer Heroes page. Those are the kind of people that should be held up in this hobby because they're what makes this hobby great. Like people who build the
Hmm.
community, who grow their local scene, who keep everybody running, playing, happy, facilitate those games, facilitate new people coming into the hobby. They're the people who actually keep this hobby great. So yeah, 100%. Thank
Hmm.
you. Good shout. Good shout. And then you can vote from that page. CRG with a super chat saying, "Hey Vince, I got my Skaven army done before the new year, and your videos helped a lot. I hope 2025 is another great year for the hobby." Well, congratulations, CRG. Getting an army finished is always amazing, and now you don't have to set that as a resolution for the new year. There you go. Congratulations. Okay, Chuck, let's talk about some pick of the week, man. What do you want to share with everybody? What do you got? What you
Oh,
got?
well, I've been getting back into a lot of content for Warhammer. I kind of stepped away for a little bit because I was exploring other hobbies and retro video games and all that. But two things to shout out. One, I'm going to be selfish and shout out myself because Vince, ever since you shouted me out, like I've seen a nice little uptick in people coming to watch my content.
Well, good.
Which is
People
mostly
should
a
watch
podcast.
Chuck's content. Strengths Hammer will be linked down below. You should go watch Chuck's content.
I appreciate that, and I'm going to kind of push and up things a little bit this year. New camera and setup is the goal to finally get 1,000. I'd like to get 1,000 subs by end of the year. So I got a whole year. I think I can do it.
I think we can get you there.
I appreciate that. Non-selfish. I found a gentleman called Hammer the Backlog.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's UK based, but he's had Warhammer of all sorts. Old World, Sigmar, 40K, bought over the past 25 years collection, and he's working through it, and he's setting reasonable expectations and goals for himself quarterly, and he's presenting it alongside narrative battle reports with his friend. It's a very I just found it yesterday, and I've watched probably 3 or 4 videos, but it's just very relaxing. It's very nice, and it's very attainable, I think, for casual war gamers, not people like me and you, Vince, who are crazy, and we'll sit down here for 8 hours and knock out an army in like 2 weeks.
Sure.
Like very relatable, very good. Hammer the Backlog. I could definitely suggest him. He needs more people watching this stuff.
Nice, excellent. I will find it and link it down below. And then for my pick of the week, we'll put Begoosh up on screen here. For my pick of the week, I'm going to shout out my friend, my partner, in Snarling Badger, Uncle Adam. He did his annual Tabletop Minions Awards, where he highlights a lot of very cool things, creators, companies, stuff like that. I want to shout out Uncle Adam. I love it that he does it. He's always he really does highlight, just like you said, Chuck, a lot of small things, independent people. So it's kind of like, and we all hopefully know Uncle Adam. If you're watching this, hopefully you know who he is, and you've subbed up to him already. But go check out some of the games he talks about, some of the creators and stuff like that he's talking about. So it's got a lot of good recommendations in there on people who are doing some awesome things. Okay. Nice. Very good. Uncle Adam and I were actually just meeting Monday night earlier, because we meet once a week. I wasn't able to meet Sunday because of conflicts, and we were getting all the stuff for the next year's big game finalized. Get excited. We got some very fun things planned. I think it's going to people are going to be a little surprised. That's what I'll say. People are going to be a little surprised.
I was shocked by last year's. Last year's was a phenomenal surprise.
Well, Death Wizards has done very well.
Yeah.
We're very proud of it. We're approaching, by the by, our on there. If you haven't picked up your copy of Death Wizards yet, maybe a New Year's resolution to try some new games is in order. You can find the link for it down in the description. And we're approaching our like the adamantine badge or whatever. So if you haven't picked it up yet, pick it up. It's a great deal. We'd love to get that. So there you go. Okay. All right. Okay. Donald Coey said, question, what is your guys' non-GW mini of 2024? What a wonderful transition into hobby time this will be. While you think, Chuck, I will answer.
Yeah, I need to think.
It's fine. You think. I will give an answer. So, this right here that I have, that I'm going to talk about, or that I was about to talk about in hobby time, is from Chimera. She's just put together. I cleaned her up and put her together last night. I didn't get a primer yet. I finished I forgot to get my darn picture out of what I worked on. One moment, please. While I'm talking about this, I'm going to be doing two things. This was released at Monte Sansevino, and I picked up a copy of it. It's Athena, but it's like sci-fi Athena. Okay, so she has like cybernetic limbs or something, and like space armor, but also classic, like just cloth stuff, like Athena. She has a cool like shield you can do some freehand on. Her weapon is really cool. It looks like a really cool spear. She has like little cyber wings or something back there. So at any rate, I love this mini. I saw it and I fell in love with it. It has both. I picked her with the unhelmeted head. She does have a helmeted head as well. There you go. You can see she can. So it could be this little thing on there like that. But I didn't like the big helmet, so I like painting faces and stuff. So this came out at the end of the year. It just grabbed me so much. There's so many cool display figures in the world from other companies. There's a bunch that I have to paint, but this one actually released this last year, and I'm really excited for it. So 54 mil, obviously. So yeah, that's my pick. And then while I'm at it, here's the last project I finished up. People asked, like, actual hobby time. People said, share your pictures. Don't just hold up the thing. Okay, well, there you go. That's the guy I just finished up. That is from Mindworks. So I was very happy with how that came out. He was a lot of fun to paint, really pushing myself on the skin and the micro details on the skin and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that really was a very fun project. He was like my holiday project. I just kind of did for me, not worrying about anything else. Just having a good old time. There you go. Faulty Optics says they should have released Athena in ice blue resin to match the Monty environment. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. What about you, Chuck?
Well,
Any of the Trench Crusade stuff grab you?
not yet, not yet. I'm not resisting it, but I'm not diving in because I know it's going to capture me. I just sent you a link in the general chat. I picked it up this year, and it's being printed by my one friend who has a resin printer right now. But it is if you go to My Mini Factory, it's what was it called there? What was the company's name? Busts Workshop.
Okay.
And the one thing I do love, if it's not army painting, the other thing I enjoy doing is trying to paint busts because
Sure.
that's how I improve. I've learned a lot every time I've done a bust to different things and getting nice feedback. But there's one on there called Dark Elves Queen. And if you know me and you know what I like, you'll look at it, and it's not Marathi. Wink.
Wink. Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, there's some great busts there for the old world setting. So I have that being printed right now by a friend. So I don't know if it was made this year, but I bought it this year. So it's my mini of this year.
All right, that works. That works. I got a bunch of fun busts like that from there that like stuff like that good my that are mutual friend Anthony Polcastro painted out for or printed out. Sorry, printed out for me. The 3D printing master.
Hmm.
So looking forward to that. Kenny asked if that's how I look. If this is a picture of me after I finished Atkins. Absolutely, yeah. This is after that keto diet. This is getting that real cut. This is me after the cut phase. Yeah, 100%. All right. Okay. CRG I do through Patreon is where my Discord is. So there you go. And then somewhere up here there was a question. What was it? Do. Uh, where was it at? Oh, there you go. Eduardo said, "Happy to help to get to Chuck to 1,000 subs. What's the channel name? Strength Hammer.
Nice
Strength
and
Hammer.
simple.
It's nice and
Weekly
simple.
podcasts
Strength
and
Hammer and his
random
weekly podcast.
videos as I find interesting articles that pop up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So, uh, let's with that, Chuck. Let's talk about let's transition to our main topic here. Almost perfectly at the half hour mark. 2025. Let's talk about it. I don't have anything big prepared. I've just got a little single slide to put up. Our hobby goals and hopes for this year. So let's start with some personal hits here. Okay. Before we get into uh, before we get into like the what we hope from Games Workshop of it all.
Right, swinging for the fences and whatnot.
Yep. Yep. Uh, Jacob, don't worry. I'll eventually drop hints. We're not in the hint phase yet, other than it's a new game. There you go. But is it? I don't know. Time will tell. At any rate, let's talk about personal goals. Chuck, what's on your personal goal list? I don't do resolutions. I think resolutions are silly.
Yeah,
If you want to change something about yourself, change it any day of the year, right? But I do think that New Year's a good time to set goals. I don't like beating myself up and making it punitive. But a goal is reasonable. Life is about having goals. So what's your
yep.
goals?
I say it is. I'm exactly with you on that. I'm not a resolution person because resolutions feel like they're made to be broken, whereas goals are set to improve you at any time whenever it makes sense. Um, so goals this year. For Warhammer, the as you can tell, I want to work on some improving of my paint skills, some of the basic highlights and stuff. So I have more busts actually being printed than just that one I suggested. So painting probably at least one bust a quarter, I think, is my goal right now, as far as like personal hobby. I'm definitely in a weird spot. I have like right next to me is my small little backlog. 'Cause I don't have much of a backlog, but I don't technically need to paint an army. I paint them because I feel like painting an army challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I have plenty of armies, so looking at that, it's how can I improve certain aspects of my paint skills when I am painting armies. So
Sure.
I think the bust is kind of the big goal of painting one every quarter and taking my time, not just doing it in a week and being done. Like, where can I improve? And if I hate it, redo it. Like
I love that.
it's a bust. I'm spending $10 on a bust. I can paint it 3 or 4 times, and that's fine with me.
That's so good. One per quarter is such a reasonable goal. That's exactly the right way to think about it. It gives you a nice palette cleanser every so often, something to really focus and work on. As you said, you can redo it. Yeah, I love that. That's great. That's really good. That's really good. Couple questions to answer real quick. Macaque said, "Is the Discord for patrons or is it public?" It's for patrons, so I've got it. That's where I do my Discord. And Cody said, "If you could get a bust of yourself, would you paint it?" I'd paint a bust of Chuck. That I would do
I'd
for
paint
sure.
I would paint a bust of Vince.
Getting the
We'll
forehead
exchange.
right is going to be the really hard part. Capturing that shine, that's going to be
I,
the difficult.
hey, that's a skill set I need to improve. Actually, speaking of which, this is something I kind of had on the thought process for last year, and I know I mentioned it to you, Vince, but I should throw it out there again, just so it's out in the universe. My custom character Teyrathi.
Yes.
I've had a goal for a while now, and I've not really enacted upon it. To get someone to sculpt it.
I know some
So
people.
yeah, you know, and then honestly, I probably wouldn't even sell it. It's just I wanted
No,
it
you want
once, and
something
I'd be like,
personal for you.
right, and it's like, okay, here's the STL. Everybody that wants to paint my custom character, have fun. But I'll put that out there too. Maybe as like a far-reaching goal is find someone to sculpt it, work that deal out, get that done, and
No,
go
hit
from
me up
there.
after the show. I know people. I know
Okay,
people. Absolutely.
I will.
We can get you. We can get you set up there. All right. So for mine, let's start with the most simple hobby goal from a personal one. We can kind of go back and forth here. Uh, Praetor Dragon said non-metallic metal forehead painting. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's that you want to talk about highlights. The uh, it's finish my Skaven army. It's really simple, really
Mm.
easy. Well, finish is the wrong word. I shouldn't say that. That's incorrect. Uh, get to get more of my Skaven army painted. Finish is the wrong goal because it will never be done. Skaven armies I paint forever, right? I painted the existing Skaven force I had. I was painting minis up in it, for it until the new thing released, and I've had it for. That army itself was 11
Mm.
years old, and it was replacing an army that was 13 years old before that, or something like that, or 15 years old, or whatever before that. So I have these armies for a long time, right? And I will paint Skaven for the foreseeable future. I always love painting Skaven. But my goal this year is to get my army up to like 2K, right? For sure.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I'm making good progress. I certainly have I'm like 5 clan rats away from my holy wars list being done. So that's cool. I might do 3 rat ogres as well. I don't think they'll actually fit in the list, but that's okay. It's still cool. I want more of the new rat ogres. I really like them. Um,
Are you almost through? I guess I don't
the
want to say skate
Skaven tide box.
story, but yeah, are you through that box? Essentially, the basics of it.
Yeah, the only character I have, the only like single model I have left from that box is the rat on a rat, the rat on the claw lord on brood terror is the only thing I have
Hmm.
left, and then beyond that it's just clan rats left. So
Okay. Well, clan arts you can get into a rhythm with that too,
sure,
pretty easily.
they just
They're
take
not.
a
Yeah.
while because I'm doing them
Yeah.
like one at a time or something like that. So you know
It's gonna be a
that's
stellar
right.
army.
I'm very excited for it. I finally got my basing scheme. I do need to. I've been kind of just putting off really worrying about it in this period here at the end of the year. But as we're getting into the new year, I'm going to need to hit up Anthony, get him the actual list of bases I need, and so on and so forth, so we can get those over and I can get my beautiful little boys based.
Hmm.
But yes, you are correct, Faulty Optics. My goal is to hear the lamentations of one John Nenus. to hear his cries as he has foolishly decided to work on only one model, Vizek Scour, which he's going to be taking to Golden Demon. So he's just going to be so far behind.
Oof.
He's got nothing. He's going to be painting that for the next 3 months basically. So this is where I can run up the score real hard. So that's what I'm looking forward to. The you know it what'll allow me is a chance to really make sure that he just has no hope. But yeah, that's sort of my army paint one. I really don't like other AOS models. I'm sure there'll be things that I want to paint. I know I want to do a lot of terrain stuff this year. I have a sub goal of a bunch of terrain. So you'll probably see a bunch of stuff on the terrain or on the channel for doing terrain and stuff.
I'll say I this was probably 3 years ago. I think it was early second, but I treated my Age of Sigmar terrain. I wanted to have a Daughters of Cain themed board, so I treated it as an army project essentially, and took a while on it. But like I have a statue of Marathi Cain, like the snake and everything. I ripped apart Cauldron, and having that themed board is so satisfying on my home table.
Sure.
So
that's exactly what I'm gonna do. There's literally gonna be a video that's coming about like where I take my old display boards and take a hammer to them and start like, or what I mean, like a crowbar, effectively, whatever. I'm like ripping all the terrain off of them to make the table themed for what those display boards were. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's a nightmare as you're going through it because it doesn't feel like you're doing anything because you can't look at points. But man, once you're done, it is one of the most satisfying things. I've done that, in this past year I did an old world specific board. Nothing fancy, just Empire stuff, but like the new Manor kit engaged me. So man, it is an oddly satisfying but a harder grind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I need some new terrain for my table. Anyways, I have those dumb display boards just sitting there. I donated the aircraft carrier this last year to one Mr. Steve Herner, so he can use it he wants to make a KO table. So this will be for it'll be a terrain piece on the KO table going forward. So I was happy to give him that thing. It certainly served me well over the years. And so, that's like, now that just the rest of the display board is there, and so I'm just going to take that apart and do stuff with it. And then as well, I've got a couple other things. So there you go. All right. What other goals you got there, Chuck? What else you working on this year? What about within the armies itself? Like any particular figs you want to make sure you get done this year?
It's always hard because I'm always looking at my Daughters of Cain army because it's just like, that's what I love. And this has always been a inkling.
It's your
in my
forever
mind.
army. I get it. It's like me with Skaven. I get it.
I have two forever armies. It depends on the game system, essentially. High Elves or Daughters of Cain. But with Daughters of Cain, I keep looking at it. The color scheme and palette was a carryover from my Dark Elves, which made sense at the time because that came up from, we've been here since the start of Age of Sigmar.
Yep.
And slowly it's readapted and it's kind of become its own thing. And it's fine. I don't mind that. But whereas in the old world, I had the different hair colors for the elves. So there was white, there was black, and then there's some blonde.
Right.
When I look at Daughters of Cain, like, it's all about Terathi. It's all about that, my leader, and she's blonde. And I have been tempted many times to go back through and every model that's not painted with blonde hair, put the blonde hair on and make it a truly unified scheme across the whole army. And it's that it's more like, I guess, Mind Goblins making me want to do this. So
sure,
that will probably happen this year if I get bored enough.
Okay.
But that's one of those, like, I guess, side quest goals that may pop up because that's probably honestly 2 weeks of work. It's not a ton.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, like, I do have some hobby projects probably for the first quarter sitting next to me. I got, through Christmas and Christmas money and all that sort of fun stuff. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about that quite yet, but
whatever. Yeah, hit me. Bring them.
Okay. Well, right now on my desk right now, some Lumineth models I got from the Hobby Vices Secret Santa, which check out Hobby Vices. It's a great thing and it's fun to spoil people and honestly get spoiled in return. But I received a great gift randomly for Christmas. Hopefully it shows up here. Blair.
A little Gore Chosen. Yeah, there
sealed.
you
Yeah. So that's gonna be like a mini project here soon. But I also have a Votan start, about 500 points of Votan because of
Okay.
the grand narrative this past year. I was a Votan character, and I had to study the characters and the army and the lore. And you know, when you do that, you listen to like 2+ Tough or someone of that nature, and all of a sudden you buy the army.
That'll happen. That'll happen.
Yeah.
Also, yes, your outfit for leagues was really good. Like obviously, it's your little picture when you're not on video,
Oh yeah.
and it's your new Twitter profile picture and stuff such as that. It's good. You especially with the haircut. I think you fit the role. It looks appropriate.
Yeah, I'm glad I got the haircut, do that donation bit before that costume because I think it's like, yeah, the hair looks better short as a Votan as opposed to long like a classic dwarf.
Right.
Um, one other project, I guess, for the coming year, and it's going to be this will be the shortest. This will be a speed paint type project, but my FLGS had two classic things in here from 2021, so it's a vintage
Okay.
Warhammer.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
sure. Yeah, the forever ago.
forever ago, and they weren't going to be sold well, at least for like the Sigmar crowd, but it's the old original start collecting for Seraphon.
Okay, sure.
He had two, so for less than $200, I essentially have a 2,000 point Lizardman army.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna put on old bases, go that route because it's the old cold ones, it's the old models. Which, yeah, if I was gonna do a Seraphon army, I'd buy the new models because they're absolutely fantastic. But it's like I can do a little classic hammer. I might even do the Goblin Green bases on these. I don't know yet.
Well, I mean, Lizardmen slash Seraphon are a really fast, fun paint thing. That is for sure. Like it's an army you can paint quickly and still looks great. By the way, Bust's Workshop is in the chat. Hey, thanks for the mention. We also have a sick space nun that
Ooh.
battles obviously in the grimdark future. Very nice. Love that. I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
And then Kat with the super chat coming in saying, Happy New Year. One of my resolutions this year is to look into commission painting. Any tips for jumping into that side of things? Yeah, talk to other commission painters is really like the first thing you should do. Like people who are actively commission painting, figure out what you would want your sort of like pricing structure to be. Start with smaller projects. Don't take on like a massive army as your first thing. Figure out what your speed is, how fast you have to work, what's comfortable for you. So like start with a couple of smaller projects that you know that you can achieve on that aren't high risk, and then that will let you both understand your pricing as well as understand your like sort of time investment and stuff like that. And then once you've got that rhythm down, you figure out how many hours you got to do, then you can finalize your price sheet and then, take on whatever bigger projects you want. But I would recommend 3 to 4 at least smaller projects first. That way you get a good sense of like how long it's taking you, understand what the communications you're going to have with the person at the beginning of the commission are. So like, how are you communicating to them what their expectations are, what paint schemes they want, what level of quality they want, that kind of thing. Make sure that you have all of that thought through, so that way it's a very easy process both for you and for them, and you're protecting yourself. So there you go. That's my advice, Kat. Okay. Yeah, for me on the other side of the figure, obviously I've got this girl I just showed, the Athena, gonna do her up. But I've got just a mess of busts and display figures that I am super excited about this year. So I got lots of things for me painting. I'll be honest, this year there's gonna be a lot of that on the channel. I got to figure out sort of what to do with any of them. What I mean by that is like, what do I make a video out of this? I can't just like, I try to make the video something that's going to be learning, and the reality is I've covered a lot of the things I'm doing here on some of these, before. So, which is fine. Like I don't mind recovering things. There's probably some things I need to actually cover again. But it does raise the issue of like, those kind of display figures take a while, and I got to make some kind of content out of them. So it's always a challenge of like, oh, what am I going to talk about here? One of the fun things of doing that bust that I shared earlier was I didn't record anything from that. Okay, that was just me painting for me, which is something I get to do very rarely. Most anything I paint has to become content. I have to think about that kind of thing. But I had enough time here at the end of the year and content ready to go that I was able to just sit down and paint a thing for myself, which is nice. It's actually pretty rare.
Actually, Vince, honestly, for a content thing regarding busts, seeing your thought process of what bus to choose for multiple reasons, like competition, fun, skill set learning. That would be kind of an interesting video for me personally
Okay.
to throw some content ideas your way because I mean I grab what I like. I like what I like, but you know, someone who's a teacher like yourself could go, all right, well, what are you working on? Oh, you want to get better at armor? Here's the type of bus you want to look at. Maybe it's not a fully armored bus, but the armor on this type of bus would be more interesting. Things like that.
Makes sense. I love it. Okay. Very good. I've written that down. I've actually been writing down. I have a little notebook here next to me that also not only contains timestamps, but also contains my video ideas. So there you go. So I added that in. A couple other people suggested some video ideas. If you have video thoughts for things you'd like to see in the next year, you can hit me up. Just say them, and I'll if they're cool, I'll put them in the notes. That's for everybody out there in the chat. Uh, Bus Workshop said, thanks, Vince. You can actually paint for yourself and paint yourself. Talk to us. We can make something awesome happen. Oh, very nice. Okay. Yeah, very good. I can't imagine anybody in the world wants to paint a bust of me. That does not feel like a thing that would be successful there. So that feels like the least exciting thing ever. It's like, Chuck, I don't think you're a Magic player, but like the
very, very, very side Magic player. I have it, but I don't play it regularly. Yeah.
no, it's fine. One of the things that happens every so often is cards get made based on like in the history of Magic, there are cards that have been made based on like Pro Tour winners or like various things like that. So like they get to design a card themselves, and they work with the team and everything. So like as a result, for winning a big tournament, they get to make a card or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And as well as part of that, they get to be in the art. So like they're the art for the card. So the artist who does it uses them as the reference for the person in the card. You understand what I'm saying? So like Snapcaster Mage, Dark Confidant, all these people were player cards. And you can always tell a player card from like 10 miles away. Okay. They're so obvious because it looks like everybody in the fantasy world looks super cool. I mean, no offense to anybody here. If you happen to be watching this and you're one of the people who had this, I'm not trying to insult you. It's just so very obvious that like everybody in the world looks like cool and everything. And then here's this nerd.
Yeah.
Here's this like fantasy nerd wizard. And so, it's just like, it's always very like, that's what it would be if somebody made a bust out of me. It'd be like, this is not a warrior. Who's this nerd? That's why I say that.
Actually, Vince, while you might not think people would want to paint a bust of you, the little chibis that Eric drew long ago, so like your Lord of Change, Tom's Nurgling and all that, those would be fun. I'm not sure how the IP works on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Right.
We get, but those would be really cool to
like
see
Tom's
as
Nurgling and Tyler's little Spite Revenant. Yeah.
Yeah, those would be really cool to see turned into like little chibi,
Absolutely.
Not busts, but like just minifigures. That would be kind of fun.
Absolutely. So that would be something I'd be down for 100%. I'm sure that GW's legal department would come after me in some way, but I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what's maybe not. I mean, I'm sure if it's different enough.
If it's based upon on the art that's removed, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know what the rules are. Who knows what the rules are?
No one does.
Yeah, exactly. At any rate, Fantasy Flight had, maybe still has, a perk for employees that they could become a game piece art, usually done pretty well. Nice. That's cool. Desfor says, a little chibi bird Vince would be fun. There you go. Yes, Euro-friendly time. Here on holiday, we can actually do the show. I don't have to, be at work right now. They're like, I would love to do the show at a Euro-friendly time all the time, but I have a job, so they would like me to also work during this time. So that's the challenge. But hey, it's New Year's Day, so it's a holiday. There you go. So that's kind of my goals. All right, let's it's some interesting stuff. Apparently, I need to have a goal of like making my own range of little channel themed figures for this year. That's what I'm learning.
He's writing it down, folks. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Painting bald figures is a good idea for a tutorial. That is a good idea. Okay.
I want to see you edit the video of you painting your bird self, and then do like the smash cut at the end of you swearing as you struggle with the lighting, or you just
Hmm.
laughing at the audacity of just how silly this is.
Yeah, sure, sure. Absolutely. I like cheapy figs.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, I'd be down for it. Okay. All right, let's talk about let's turn to the the Age of Sigmar game itself. Our hopes from GW. Okay. So, like, obviously, some things we know. We know we got a Gits book coming. We know the, Auric book is here like a week away, already been spoiled and all of that. We know we've got the Path to Glory book coming, that
Very
kind of thing.
very
Right.
excited for that.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll talk about that. We will do a review of the Path to Glory book on the channel. I'm gonna be hitting up Doug, if you're watching this at any point in time, Mr. Two Plus. I'm gonna be hitting you up probably for that show. Um, okay. So, what do you hope to see for AOS as a game in 2025, in this year, our first
Well,
full year of 4.0?
well, my first thought would be a narrative supplement, which we're getting. So I'm just gonna take that right off the list because I'm very excited for that. Just to exist, to tell me more story.
Yeah,
Um, to be honest, it's I still feel there's such a lack of flavor with the indexes, and obviously kind of porting over into the battle tome. So I'm hoping to see more flavor come in, either through narrative means, and let the competitive stand on its own for how they want that to be. But I want to play a unique, like not unique. I'm trying to think how to say it, but I want, like, I miss Kraith. I miss all those types of very specific armies that have a very specific rule to make me want to play a very specific way, whether that's the right way to play the army or not.
yeah,
I'm hoping to see that flavor come back into the game in some way. Like I said, probably narrative is probably the easiest way, and I'm a narrative gamer, so that's fine. But man, like I'm going to Brewhammer here first weekend of February, um, and I'm looking at my daughter's Canes list, and I'm like, just like I can't find the flavor because the flavors just put things into a list, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. It's absolutely true. I mean, there is probably a larger discussion. Shout out to X Slipknot Brian X, who said, with the $5 super chat, saying, "I'd like to see the Iron Jaws playable for 2025. Come back next week. I'm gonna be talking about how I think there's gas in the tank, despite the fact that we got an index reprint, largely because of other things, stuff that happened in the battle scroll. Um, okay, so yeah, I agree, man. And there's a whole show we could probably do on, did we lose, like, have we thrown the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Or,
In the simplification of everything and in this streamlining, have we subtracted too much? Like, is list building now boring, basically, right? Like, is that
oh, it's
you're
very
not,
boring.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're not
it's
deriving anything. Like, you're I have never felt list building was more on rails than right now in this current edition of the game.
yeah. When I saw the pre-order of that, or the announcement of the pre-orders of the narrative book, I said, okay, I've only ever made Daughters of Cain list in this edition, and
Yeah.
that's it's you have to do it to play the game. Makes sense. But I said, let me sit down through all my armies, go through one by one, and build a list I would like. And I'm not trying to be purely negative on this, but it started to feel like a chore. I'm like, I don't want to play this army, and this is just the models I have. Like, I can't really. Daughters of Cain I can play with, and be like, okay, this here I can do a snake version, I can do the witch elf version. A lot
Yeah.
of my other armies are 2,400 to 3,000 points at most.
Yeah.
They are what they are, and some of them are, here's 12 auxiliaries because I can't figure it out any other way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say, like, I have a lot of fun building Skaven lists just because they actually are so big and so varied. It's one of the few armies you actually have. But when I make but I've made a lot of lists here, and my Iron Jaws lists or stuff like that are all just like really quick and obvious. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
just obvious choices, and things just kind of like, yes, yes, yes. You're just ticking boxes like very quick. It takes 5 minutes to put the list together, right? And I think one of the reasons I do like Skaven, I think, is because it is a very different experience, because the army's so big, it's got so many scrolls, it's so many different avenues. You really can build like 20 different lists. It's not immediately solvable, which is cool, but that's rare. And it's still like less choice, i.e. I miss my magic item choices or stuff like that. Like
Remember
there
we
that
had
says
realm-specific items? Remember
yeah, yeah,
realm-specific items, everybody?
exactly. I look at like I will say this, man, when I make old world lists, it's way more interesting generally. Like yes, sure, there is sometimes the trap of like you take the dispel scroll type of thing or whatever, right? Like what I mean by this is just like there's some magic items that you feel are like automatic
But you can
in
take
the
more
book.
than one, so like, okay, I spent 25 points of my 2,000 is a lot different than I've chosen my only magic item I can take.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot
exactly.
more play in that.
I
Um,
I
I-
will say I find I like it's weird because there are things about list building in a world like in like the old world that I really love. I like the magic item choice. I like the sort of unit upgrade choices, right? Like you can pay X points and the unit will have this extra,
mhm.
bajoobity
Extra
juke rule
ability,
and
your
so on and so
veteran.
forth. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's all. I like that stuff a lot. I find that's actually really interesting. Um, I hate individual model buying. Like that's just always been something that bothered me. Like this is my unit of 17 models, right, or whatever. Like I
So yeah, I can see that. I enjoy it, but I can see where that can be. It's easier. Just like let me buy tens as many as I want.
exactly. Like
I get that. I get that. Yeah.
I don't I'm not asking for. I will also say I find that like list building restrictions of something like the old world quite smartly designed for the most part. Like yes, there are problems, and yes, the game has a lot of balance issues.
Yeah, the core
Certainly
the
that's
core
true.
unlocking issue probably should just go. Like we shouldn't be able to unlock core like we could in Sigmar for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I like the 1 per 1,000 or something like that is kind of a
Yeah.
cool thing. Like they're very willing to sort of be very individualistic with the stuff, if that makes sense,
Hmm.
right? Um, and I think that some of that could be valuable in AOS. But at any rate, yeah, the lack of like actual enhancements and heroic traits, like the fact that that is now just gone from list building. It's just you pick the one thing that's obvious, you pick the one thing that's obvious, you move on. You know, Chuck, I was my Slanesh list right now that I've been experimenting with. I literally take no heroic traits or enhancements because it's all unique characters, everything top to bottom,
Everything's
every
unique. Hmm.
character. There is no generic characters in the list, so I have
Wow.
no heroic traits or magic items whatsoever. And you know what? You know what I'm missing? Nothing. I feel I
Nothing.
don't. I'm like okay, who cares? I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And that's a statement on how little those are actually worth, right?
Yeah. But
Um,
I think that, like another wish for Sigmar. Talked about this on our year-end review on my podcast, but there's there's two armies specifically I think this could happen. One, both are released. One's released. One will be coming out eventually. Um, we need to war clans a few armies. KO and Fire Slayers and whatever depossessed you feel like having left. Put them into a book. Give me the option to mix those a little bit easier. I'm not saying
sure.
put Fire Slayers in boats, but I'm saying let me take Fire Slayers as my ground troops and my KO
Yeah,
as
yeah,
my
yeah,
my
sure.
boats.
Do
And
an
then
Auric War Clans with them. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And then the other one obviously, and as I'm a huge Daughters of Cain, big Marathi, I'm a big supporter of everything going on in the Cain world.
Sure.
You bring out Malarian and his elves, put them in the same book with them. Give me that option. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like Daughters of Cain's already big enough. It's great, but more options the better. Like you said, it's
Agreed.
Stormcast is an interesting list building mechanics, list building army. Skaven are, Daughters of Cain are. I would say cities right now, but also like even me, like I have Wood Elf models to act as my Dark Elf models in there, and I'm looking at that going, how many years are left before I have to take those back to Old World and do all humans or whatever, like
Yeah, yeah.
things like that. So like yeah, I think a couple armies could be or war clans together, and it would be a better benefit for both those armies.
Agreed. Flummox Buffoon saying the things to add to AOS: thighs, thighs, thighs. More Shadow Elves. There you go. And then Dad Bod said, based Alariel holding down the thigh game by herself. I mean, you're not wrong there.
Yeah, she is.
Love it. Thank you very much, Flummox Buffoon. Yeah, I mean, the okay. Let me pitch an idea at you here. All right,
All right.
Chuck. Let me pitch an idea at you. If we're gonna get a lot of these battle tomes that are just sort of indexed retreads, right? Which is that like which is sort of a necessity of the way they decided to run their pipeline, right? Because they had to write these battle tomes at the same time they were writing the game,
yeah.
right? Okay, fine. Like, I talked last week that I think that's, like, I understand it. I still think it's wrong. What they should have done is not put out any battle tomes for the first, like, 8 months. We should be talking about the first battle tomes coming out for AOS now that are coming out in March, right? And they should have delayed it by enough that they could act, or like whatever, I don't know, something, so that they actually had time to like do more internal playtesting, start actually building on learnings, and then go with that. But they didn't. We're already that genie's already like out of the bottle, so fine. Okay. So let me pitch a different concept at you. You know, one of my favorite things about sort of like D&D and a lot of other games is that you can publish supplement books that kind of enrich original content. So what I mean is the player's handbook comes out, right? It's got fighter in it. Yeah. And fighter has some subclasses. And like those subclasses are champion and eldritch knight and whatever. Okay. Stuff. Yeah. Battle master. Great. Okay. Fun. Whatever. But then like a year or two down the line, they can come out with like, I don't know, the heroes of draconic lore or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You right. And then in there, they have a bunch of new subclasses for classes that are like based on dragon themed stuff or something. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Right. So like, here's another subclass for the fighter. Okay.
To be honest, the perfect correlation, and I think it's one of those cases of accidental new modern game design. Arcane journals. It sounds like
Absolutely.
You want an arcane journal for Sigmar, which I'm 100% for because
there we go. Yes, we already have this technology in Games Workshop, the arcane journal. Absolutely correct. Yes. So like, what I would love to see is some kind of expansion content in this year where, in that thing, there is bespoke additions for all the armies or all the armies in a Grand Alliance or something, right? You get what I'm saying? Like go across the board. When I don't understand why we couldn't do that. It seems fully possible. Like we're publishing all these regiments of renown in a PDF at the end of the year. And that is matched play rules that suddenly I can be mixing my armies. I don't want to mix, and maybe I'm a weirdo. If I'm weird, you can tell me in the chat, by the way. But like, I wasn't looking to solve the boringness of the problems in my army with list building by suddenly bringing in a different army, especially one that I feel like, especially things like that, where I'm not sure about the lifespan on that. You want me to paint 500 points of something, and that could have the shelf life of like, milk sitting on the counter, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know those kind of regiments can just go away at a whim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas like a new magic item option, like if they published a book that was like, the invasion of whatever, like some big thing happens in the Mortal Realms, right? And they give it a narrative basis, and they have a bunch of cool lore in there about what's going on, actually talk about what's happening in the world within this new thing. It grounds us. It lets us understand the current story, like what's going on with the Skaven invasion and what are the Stormcast Ruination Chamber doing, and what's Nurgle up to these days, right? Like whatever, yeah. And then also there's just like a 2-page spread for each army that introduces like a new subfaction or two, some couple new magic items, right? Something like that. Just some stuff. Okay. That would be super cool. Right? And yes, it would mean a second book. I understand the downside. All of these things are double-edged swords because now it's like, well, I got to have a second book maybe I carry with me for these things potentially or whatever. I understand that's a challenge. I agree. I'm not looking to bring 7 books to a tournament or whatever. We all know that's the downside. You can go too far with this. Okay. But I think it's worth it to have a little bit of that kind of content there. I just really do. Like what exactly? Yes, Curran. Like what Wrath of the Everchosen did back in the day.
Oh yeah, great book.
Exactly. Everybody loved Wrath of the Everchosen. Like that.
I might be. I've thought about this before, and I've had discussions, not necessarily on any sort of podcast or anything, but just like with local friends, regarding Sigmar specifically. And it's a thought I keep having, and I don't know the answer to it, so don't think this is a hot take, and I'm against it. Um, but if I look at something like Old World, man, I would love to have like a general's handbook type thing, just to see what that would do, because I think it would help bring things forward.
Sure.
And general's handbook when it came out for Sigmar originally really brought things forward.
Yeah.
But in the space we're at now with Sigmar, has the general's handbook become too much of a crutch? Are we too stuck upon it?
It's
Is it
just the
holding us
match play
back at this
rules for
point?
that season. That's all it is now. There's nothing else going on. It's like a required $50, $60 tax for the
Yeah.
match play rules for that season.
Can
That's
we find a
all it
way to
is now.
live without it and still have everything that we want? Is kind of the question with it, because as the game has grown, have we grown past what the Journal's Handbook concept still is at this point? I don't know. It's just a thought I keep having, and it's a fun
I get
discussion
you.
with
I get
friends.
you. No, I'm fine with the General's Handbook is what it is. They're just trying to find a way to have like regular recurring revenue from the match play people who a
Sure.
lot of them
Yeah.
don't tend to buy stuff. So like fine and dandy, good enough. If that's the strategy, I'm okay with it. Like I don't care that they're making that. Okay, like it doesn't bother me in any way. It's fine. They can do interesting things in there sometimes. Whatever, whatever. But that's not the only thing I want. I look at it like,
Okay.
you want to sell more books? Great. I want to buy more books, right? But I want them to be full of stuff that's interesting. And this is what I keep coming back to. We mentioned like the Wrath of the Everchosen or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like, give us stuff that has some additional options in interesting ways. And like the Path to Glory book, I'm hoping isn't the only thing we're going to see like this. Like, good
Yeah.
first step, right?
hmm
The fact that we
Safe,
got a
easy.
dedicated Path to Glory book, I'm excited for. I think that's awesome. I would love to see a full-on multiplayer book in the same way as the Path to Glory book that
Yeah.
focuses on 3-player, 4-player, 5-player games, like that kind of Chaos Ball games that focuses on, like, it doesn't have to be Triumph and Treachery. Stop making everything need a ton of rules. Simple can work, right?
hmm
Like, again, they could just, like, it can have Triumph and Treachery stuff in it. I'm not saying I don't want that. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be that. Okay? It could just be, here are 6 scenarios for playing fun multiplayer games and the basic rules you need to make that happen. Done. Done. Right? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking for. That's the floor here.
Yeah, and if you want to go deeper, you can be like, okay, let's change up how magic works for whatever, and decide to supplement for fun casual games.
Yeah.
Um, just yeah, like you can get nuts within those too, because they're not match play per se, but it adds flavor. Because Vince, I don't know about you, but like I'm gonna go play match play games, but that being the default gets stale, at least in this edition so
Absolutely.
far.
Yeah, yeah. Like I want more support for like 2-on-2 games, right?
Yeah,
For like doubles games. I think that's still the best way to play. I submit that's the best way to play AOS. I love doubles. I just really find it to be incredibly fun and rewarding. And when 2 people have 2,000-point armies, things just don't get as broken and weird and as much. So like, whatever. Like my point is, you could have a book that focused on that, on doubles, on multiplayer, on Triumph of Treachery. Like, go with that. Give me one of those,
yeah,
right? Do a Spearhead focused book. Okay.
yeah.
That's like really bringing new experiences and rules and options to that world. Okay. Like, I want to see them. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Spearhead multiplayer. Boom.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean,
Dunk.
you want
Yes.
you won't upgrade Warcry, but give us that, please.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, I just think there's so much space they could be exploring here. Instead, we're stuck in this ridiculous Battle Tome grind.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like the whole 3-year cycles. I'm tired of it.
I agree. Like, it's.
I think a lot of people are like deep down inside. If you look, 3 years just feels way too quick. Especially if they add one, they add Malarian. What's that? 20 some armies now? Like 23,
It would be
24? I don't even know.
26. Yeah.
26. That makes the next edition such a tight timetable if you're stuck to 3 years.
I have said for a while we need to go to at minimum 5-year editions, and I would be happy
Yeah.
with longer, right? But like, the I look over at D&D where you've got a 10-year potential cycle, and even with the new 2024 player's handbook, nothing was invalidated from the existing one. You can go still use, like, you can use anything that wasn't directly reprinted. All that old content, all your old books are still valid.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, oh, that's great. Now, I'll be honest, I wish they published more D&D books. Like, my complaint with them is, again, over on the D&D side, is like, I want more stuff. Come out with more stuff, please. Thank you. I long for the days of second edition where TSR published themselves into bankruptcy by just making a million books that like 7 people bought, but I was one of the 7 people, and it's glorious, right? And so I want to be able to have those additional options. And again, they don't all need to be standard match play stuff. Like, because I suspect that's part of the concern, is they're worried about tipping the balance. And it's like, well,
Labeled
okay, then just
otherwise.
don't make it all match play. Who cares? Easy.
I
Like,
mean,
fine.
also like give the onus to the TO to be like, yeah, we're not using that. Like,
Yeah.
it's if you're comp is different, I think, from saying we're not using these supplements because they skew things. Like,
Yeah.
there's a difference. There's a fine line there. But also, if I look at D&D, especially, I don't know how many gigs of 3.5 fan made supplements I have because the
Oh,
cycle
sure.
is so long. I'm sure Fourth has them too, but like I would love to do my own supplement for a Sigmar army that I want. I add the flavor in, but like in 3 years, I'm like, by the time I get it kind of in a place that's good, for like, it's not worth the effort, or I do it way too quick and I just play casually with a few friends, and I'm like, okay, but like we could have more fan interaction, I guess, to say, within the Warhammer community to create things if we have those longer cycles, because we can get used to things more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, getting into like the OSL discussion and something like that, that's even a whole different, or not OSL, sorry, the OGL, apologize, but
Mm-hmm.
not object source lighting,
Open
open
game
game
license,
license.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I like that GW would just never go down. They don't have the stones for that. They can't let their precious little thing out of the bag there. Um, but like Henry says, for FEC, for example, the battle tome barely lasted 6 months, and then had to get the index, and now they've added some more stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Um, Xavier says, just out of curiosity, would you like to see GW completely shake up the battle system for AOS, change how attacks and defense works, focus less on dice, and a little less randomness? No, none of that bothers me. Like, I don't mind the simple, like, that. No, that's all fine. I don't really have much of a problem with like the fundamental primary loop of the game. I think it more or less has stayed the same since Jervis wrote out those 12 pages, which was his initial treatment, was a 12-page treatment of the, and like they made him change it to 4 pages.
And then we
Um,
FAQ'd it back to 12.
and then we FAQ'd it back to 12. Yeah. Um, I think the primary loop is good. I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works for what it's done. I think that what I want to see is I want to see more ephemera stacked on top. I think the primary loop is solid. The foundation is solid. I just feel like we have space to explore other modalities, is what I would say. So like
Yeah.
Spearhead is good. The Path to Glory thing is good. Keep going, right? Like it's not bad to introduce people to more ways to play and engage with your game, as like Wizards forcibly learned with Magic, right? Like Commander blew up Magic in a way that wasn't their concept, right? I mean, they eventually obviously glommed onto it because they were smart, and now they've taken it over because of everything that happened with the RC. But it was like that's my entire D&D table more or less got back into Magic because of Commander. That was like
Nice.
five players at my table now play Magic when they weren't because of Commander. That's it.
Well, there's also the things too. If you're looking at like this edition's not. I don't think it's great for new players. Sure, you can slim down the rules to be a good for new players, but if I take the concept of the game as a whole with FAQs and everything, it's awful for new players. But if you, let's say we introduced a list building mechanics that had that like 0 to 1,000 points type thing that you
Yep.
mentioned that we have in Old World. Well, to be fair, I think someone building a 1,000 point list that they can play in a very simple version of the game is a lot better than start collecting Spearhead.
Right.
for long-term growth of them wanting to have the army, because there's people that might buy Spearhead and that's enough.
Yeah.
Um, and it's close. Spearhead's so close. I love Spearhead, but
Yeah.
I feel like
I think
what's
expanding it with like 2v2 options or multiplayer options or stuff like
yeah
that, having some new different things where like you can change little things, make your spearhead a little bespoke with not model choices, but maybe like a slightly you can change this rule for this rule or something like that could be cool.
yeah, but
That kind of stuff.
Spearhead, the growth concept from Spearhead is okay. Here's 700 points. Okay, now do
Sure.
2,000. Like that's not
Yeah.
no. It's a bit of a
That's
jump.
where I think the doubles focus would actually work
Yes.
because that gives you like, okay, here's your 700, get to 1,000. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That gives you another bump in the middle, right?
Yeah. That would be much more beneficial. You can add on just a few more rules, and
Right.
kind of get the investment going and the knowledge base formed. Because tell you what, if someone came in now and was like, "Oh, how does double turn work?" I'd be like, "I don't even know anymore." Like I don't know what's underdog. Don't even no. We're not playing that here.
Catharsis Chaser says books account for tilde 2% of their revenue according to some sources as well. It seems like a whole lot of wheel spinning for not much output. I don't know if that's true. But what I'll say is it doesn't matter if it's true, it's some number. And what I can tell you is internally what that would mean is that thing has a revenue line. And if you come as a product leader with a proposal and it's going to make that line go down, you better figure out some other way to make a different line go up 4 times as much. Okay? Not an equal amount, 4 times as much. Because if they're taking a risk of lost revenue, then they want to see then any company is going to expect about quadruple the potential profit on the other side. Okay? That's how discussions with finance work in companies. So like it doesn't matter if it's a small amount of money. People like it has to be incrementally nothing, like immaterial for a company to be like, yeah, it's fine, we don't need it. Right? If it's like an actual percentage, oh, that's a huge discussion. 2% of total revenue is a massive percent of total revenue internally, right? Even if you're right, standing from the outside, you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Chris H said, do you think the core of list building is good in AOS? No. No. I mean, like it's pretty simple answer.
Yeah.
I think right now it's not very good. There you go.
I I I guess to correlate that, if I look back to first edition, second edition, even a little bit of third edition, it would be like old world where I would spend my brain would always be building lists. Okay, I got a few
Yeah.
moments. Let me just open my list and tweak it. Let me do this. Let me do that. That's completely gone in this edition. It was taken away like overnight.
Yeah.
Like I,
Agreed.
I don't think about building lists. I'm just like, all right, I want this one item, and that usually everything else just falls into place around it. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, cool.
Generally, like your heroic trait and your items are just emergent choices of the units you're going to take. So is your sub faction, right? Like, oh, I took a lot of cabs, so I'll take the cab sub faction, right? Like,
Yeah.
those things are all
Or
done last.
the
You
opposite's
know.
true. Like I like the flavor, so I play Cauldron Guard, whether it's good or bad. Okay, so I'm bringing Cauldron. Oh well, then guess what? I'm bringing Witch Elves. Guess what? I'm bringing Sisters. Like
Yeah,
maybe
it
I get
all
I get
flows.
fancy
It's
and
all a direct
throw in some
line, one
snakes.
way or the other.
Yeah,
It's become very linear, right?
yeah,
We've talked about the difference between linear and modular in list building before on this channel, and like we have gone hard into linear list building. Like
yeah.
linear list building is if you take A, then you also want B, right? And if you take B, then you also want C, and if you take C, then you also want D. Like every choice begets the next choice, right? Is like when things are linear.
Mhm.
Modular is like, well, I take A, but A doesn't really want anything else. So I'll also take Q because Q would fill an interesting role here. And also Z prime, right? Or whatever. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there you go. All right. But my honest answer is I don't expect list building to change in any greatly material way. I don't know. Um, I just I don't think it will.
I
I think
don't think they
we're
see it
more or
as a
less where we
problem.
are. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't think they see the problem anyway. Like I said, where I will spend 10 minutes building a Sigmar list, I will spend 10 times as much as that on a single old world list for a weekly club game.
Sure.
Whereas that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Sigmar list will stay the same for months because that's what it is.
Yep. I agree. I think it's probably kind of also Matt's baby. I suspect the new list building mechanic is like Matt Rose's
Well,
baby to some degree.
I'm sorry. Sometimes you need to kill your darlings.
Indeed, indeed. Um, but like, there you go. All right. What else are we hoping for 2025? I'll give a simple one. I hope we get to the battle tomes that aren't just index reprints, and I hope we do some interesting things to the battle tomes. Let's add some new flavor in here. How about that? That's a thing I'd like to see.
By flavor, do you
Uh,
mean a new hero? Please don't be. I hope it's not that
that's
again. I
boy,
hope.
I was gonna say that again. Yeah, that was the other thing I was
Please
gonna
don't.
say. It's so funny. I was gonna say my follow up to that is also when you release a new book, please stop making one new foot hero for that book. It's
Yeah.
worthless, and we all hate that. Please stop.
It's fun for a edition.
But like,
Yeah.
we're so overrun with these pointless foot heroes, and you see that because they had to go through with the end of year battle scroll and change like all these pointless foot heroes to bonus heroes because
Mm-hmm.
they just are worth nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, then you have things like with Cthulhu. She like okay, you have these big named characters you want to introduce to armies. That's great. Maybe do a rolling narrative instead of an end of edition narrative where you throw them
yeah,
in last second. Like man, like Fulgrim. We're gonna get Fulgrim mid edition.
yeah,
And to be fair, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a narrative supplement. It's just like he's awake now, have fun. Like that's cool. I like that. That's gonna throw things up in the air a little bit for that game, hopefully. But yeah, I don't want to buy my giant cool new narrative hero to running games and then just see the rules completely change anyway and hope they're still good.
yes, yes, absolutely. Abraxia coming out at the last minute and then
Oh yeah,
changing
yeah.
dramatically, like book to book, right? Like that kind of thing. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, like I just cannot explain how much I hate the index reprint plus a bonus foot hero thing. And like, by the way, giving me terrain and endless spells is not a consolation prize I wanted. That is, boy, that is the worst. Okay.
Hmm.
You are giving me a gift I didn't want and then saying as a bonus, I will also kick you in the shins. Well, how fantastic. That was great. What a wonderful Christmas for me. Um, I just like if they want to stick to the 3 items and 3 heroic traits things, fine. Okay, like I understand that's what they've set up. They want to set to those, fine. I won't if that's what the world is. Then here is my ask. One, uh, like uh, one, make all 3 of those things interesting actual choices. How about there?
Like
Let's just start
like
there.
B play style choices.
Yes, exactly. 2, do the same thing with sub factions, right? Like make
Yeah.
the sub factions actually play style interesting choices, not just like take a bunch of this unit. 3, uh do more enhancement types. Okay, like have armies have unique choices they make, like something, add something.
Well,
Okay, if we're going to be this on rails.
even as simple as okay, you're taking if you have a Slaughter Queen on Cauldron as opposed to the Hag Queen on Cauldron, which is what I do. Why would I take a Slaughter Queen on Cauldron? But if you take a Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, she's your general. One unit of Witch Elves or Sisters of Slaughter can become elite executioners, and they have 1 inch of move and
Yes,
extra
love
rend on
this.
charge. Just something like you're not changing zero models. You're not making anything new. It's just tweak what's there. Cool, and then it gives me an idea. Like, oh well, how can I kit bash that? Why
Love
not?
that.
Then I buy more witch elves that I don't need, but I want them.
100%. Yes. Also, I would honestly like to see them build out the armies of renown a little more, like as opposed to just like kind of throwaway things. Like some of them are really sad, but that's where they could do some really interesting stuff we're talking about there, right? Like
I'm
that's
sure.
actually an
Yeah.
avenue they could really explore. I
Even
think the
even just
armies of
like
renown is like the best avenue for that kind of thing.
Grand Alliance book a lot. Not necessarily Regiments of Renown, but like bring allies back through the Regiments of Renown. Like you could do it in a single book, and if it doesn't work, say hey, this book's only good for a year.
Sure.
Sure, but it gives some fun to it. It might mix things up a little bit. I would love to see, and it isn't changing or adding or making anything too wonky out of the way. But okay, we have the current General's Handbook. Great. Next year we get the next one. theme it after a different realm. Don't theme it after this type of unit. Give me a realm flavor. Maybe you change one or two of the battle plans to be something slightly wonky that maybe won't get used in a tournament, but now all of a sudden the bonuses you get to choose from are now themed after a specific realm. That could just at least be interesting to see, and then you can rewrite the endless spells. Like, okay, well, we're in the death realm. The death spells might be good, but that would make sense to us as gamers if they're slightly better.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yep. 100%. 100%.
And it's a year. You're committing to a year, and if it's wonky, you can change it after the 6-month thing anyway, and make it less wonky if you overrode it a little bit, which it will happen, and that's fine. I'm glad we have the rolling FAQs going on.
Yep. Terrier Halo said, my hope is that the next Starling Badger game has a fun co-op campaign I can use some of my AOS minis in. Well, we can hope. We can hope. Let's see. The people talking about they're looking forward to their own endless spells. God Santa, when do I ask about painting tips? Whenever you want, man. Go ahead. You can ask away, buddy, as always. Okay. Yep, 5-year edition. More support for a minimum 5-year edition. Okay. Yeah, everybody liked the banners in S2D, and I agree. Like, it was cool to open it up and see, like, oh, here's a fun new enhancement that's thematic and interesting and cool and good. Like, yeah, more like that. Lewis said, just an innocent question, does GW sell many battle tomes considering their current price? No idea, man. They don't report that kind of thing publicly, so I have no idea.
Personally, there's me. I'm the smallest litmus test of anything, but every other edition I have bought a battle tome if I own the army, even if I don't play it regularly. This year I've gone in. I'm only buying the Daughters of Cain one.
Right.
I only bought their index. I'm not.
And I hate the way it shuts off in the app. We've complained about it before. It shouldn't do that.
That's...
You should still be able to access the index. That's all stupid. Okay, great. Chicago Hobby Hero says, only faction endless spells, no more generic manifestations. I support that. They clearly can't produce enough of them to actually sell them to everybody. So just make the army specific ones. If we all just had our army specific ones, honestly, I would mind manifestations like a lot less.
Oh, for sure.
A lot less. And then real quick here, Latin said, with playstyle choices, you can't have sub-faction enhancements because then it's still auto-build. The Cav sub-faction will take the Cav support enhancement, still eating linear builds. Disagree, and not what I am saying, Latin. No, incorrect. Because your playstyle faction could be, as I've talked about before, like what commanders do in Commander, where it enables a certain mode of play. I'll give you an easy example, okay? The sub-faction could be something like enabling better movement for you during okay, to play to a certain build. So okay, you're gonna play an alpha bunker build, right? So in other words, you want to go out into the middle, set up a castle, and hold ground. Okay, so the sub faction could be like your units gain +1 to save if they're holding an objective that they've held for at least one round or something like that, right? Like, that's just an example. I'm just literally throwing things out off the top of my head. But that is something that speaks to playstyle without referencing any particular unit type. Okay? It's just a generic benefit. It would apply to your heroes. It would apply to your infantry units, to your cav who are sitting there, whatever. But it's obviously more interesting probably if you're playing like heavy infantry units that want to go and sit as opposed to cav units that want to run around. Like there are soft incentives in units it aligns with, right? So that's fine, but it can enable that kind of stuff. Okay. And like I could do a write-up of just like sub factions I would create within certain armies that would kind of speak to this in a way where it's not just like take these 4 cav units or something. Right? Or spam this particular unit. The worst of all is when it's a particular unit type. Like these 2 units that are in the book, take a bunch of them. That's no good. Okay. Let's see. God Santa said, I wanted to paint an Apple product looking highly white and clean robot. Should I use plain white? How little wear can I add while still having it look credible? Okay, so the important part to understand about like Apple type, that kind of thing, that like super clean modern sci-fi white, is that it's actually not very much of it is white. What I mean by that is it's glossy, and so because it's glossy, it's highly reflective, so you get areas of very bright white but also areas of heavy shadow because that's what gloss does. So you actually want to do most of the space in like a you want to have some relatively middle grays in there, and then in the reflected areas, that's where you go to a true dead white. Like what you want to treat it almost like a white non-metallic metal of sorts, where you're traveling from mid-tone gray up to pure white. So your value spectrum is existing. Like if this is the whole spectrum 1 through 10, you're only playing in this top half area, but you actually are touching the number 1 of the absolute value of white. So that will and then you need to make sure that the shadows look very clean and the transition's very smooth and so on, and that's how you'll get there. You don't want to go too dark, but just gray enough. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay, perfect. Yes, S2D subfaction idea. You can power through against units with equal wounds or lower. Suddenly, warriors can power through against Stormcast, Varangard, and Agrodons. But that kind of thing is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Take a base rule, change it in some way that makes it interesting for you in that thing, right? Where it's like, oh, that changes around the way that this army is playing, right? Okay. That's a really great example. I love this.
That would be fun, and that would, yeah, like, kind of want to try.
Yeah, like those kinds of things is super cool. It's simple but effective and good. So like you could make it like, you know, so what does that army want to do? It wants to be a very mobile hitty army, right? Where it's trying to like constantly hit and skirmish and move away, right? So you change power through like this. The subfaction is your units can power through against equal or lesser wounds instead of just lesser. And you do 1 additional mortal when you use power through, and you get to move 2 additional inches with your movement on your power through movement. There you go. Or something like that, right? So now you're very focused on this tactic, that thing. Maybe that's overinvestment in it. Maybe you could also do one where, like, maybe if it's the runny, skirmishy army, you know, you also get to pick like 1 unit at the start of the game that gets retreat and charge or something like that, right? Like you could imagine it fitting toward the play style, right? And just like allowing for that thing and creating a package that's that, right? Okay. So there you go. Yeah. No, I love that. And like, I think that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see in the battle tomes once we get out of the morass. And I mean, it does just speak to the bad sort of strategy that we have to like get out of the ones that were all written at the same time as the game before we get to do something really fun and cool. But whatever, I don't care. It'll mean a great inequity between battle tomes. You know what I mean? Like that is to say, all the ones that came out now will feel weak and bad, or less interesting at minimum, compared to.
At that point, if you've sold the books and everything, you could always do like those little mini documents like we had for Iron Jaws at the end. Be like, here
100%.
we're changing up all your battle tactic, or not battle tactics, your subfactions with these rules. Okay,
but
cool.
I wouldn't care
books.
if we got those expansion books, like the Arcane Journal type book or whatever, right? That gave, here's some rules for all the armies. I don't care. Those old books are a little less interesting. You gave me new stuff as well. I'm happy. They get cool new tomes. I get this thing. Everybody gets something. We're all winners. Yay, sports. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's not hard. All right. What else? Is there anything else we can think of we want to see from GW AOS in 2025?
Trying to think, because like we tend to keep harping on the things we don't like as far as the changes. Like, what do I want that's just cool? I want a new Cauldron of Blood.
Wow. Okay.
I think I like the old ones, but I think they can do something so amazing with it and make it Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
Like, trying to think, like have snakes pulling. I don't know, cold ones underneath pushing it. Have the avatar finally change and be Marathi Kane like it should be based upon the lore.
Ah, nice. Okay, yeah, sure. Redesign with her up there as the new statue.
Yeah, or if you're gonna give me a new unit, give me a new avatar of Kane on foot and say, hey, those old ones, whatever, they're gone. Now it's on a 50mm base, and it's Marathi Kane version of it that we've seen in that artwork. I don't know if it's official or not, but that I know you've seen that artwork too. Just
yeah.
Like, give me that. Oh my goodness.
What? Okay, let's ask the big question. Let's imagine we do get a new army this year, which I'm not sure we will, and I find that suspect, right? Mm-hmm. But like, let's say we get the new army. What should the new army be? What's your one pick?
Should I discount Tyrion because that's technically half an army.
Uh, hold on, I gotta answer Ninjon real quick.
Oh,
If it's
sure, yeah.
Wednesday, bring me all the bacon and eggs that you have. Hold on, son, come back here. I feel like what you heard me say is bring me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said is I want all the bacon and eggs that you have. Okay, at any rate, no, don't discount anything. You can do whatever you want. What's the new thing you want to see?
I think I think we should get Tyrion first.
Okay.
I want to see whether it's say it's 2 units in Tyrion, maybe another infantry foot thing, whatever. I think I would like to see Tyrion this year because it's a minor upgrade to the Lumineth, and it sets the stage narratively for more chaos shenanigans, and for Malarian to, if you want Malarian to come out as the big new bad or big new thing for the next edition, like give me Tyrion early and set that stage. And I think it's a pretty light lift to bring him in as far as changing things up.
Yeah. Okay, here's my question though. Is that just an expansion? That's just Lumineth though, right? Like that would
It's a
still be in the
Lumineth
Lumineth
expansion.
book. Okay.
It's a Lumineth expansion, yeah. That's why I was hesitant on that being like, I don't know if I'd call that a new army. Because I'm like you, I don't want Chorfs to be just Chorfs. I want them to be KO Chorfs. You know, I want them to
Yeah,
be
sure.
something
Like
crazy.
do
Cool.
something really amazing with them. Yeah, yeah. And that wouldn't be my pick anyways. Wouldn't be
Yeah.
mine. But I know there's like obviously there's some people who are pretty excited about it, but I'm pretty anti Chorfs to be honest. But you know, whatever. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum.
Sure. But I think gut instinct, and I'm willing to go bigger and bolder after your pick too. But Tyrion and his half Lumineth coming out would be ideal for me for what the edition is currently.
Okay. Right on. Um my honest to god pick is not like if for a completely new army, so like cut from whole cloth, right? Like let's imagine we get something like totally truly new. I'm not saying it's not a species that doesn't already exist in the world, just like it's a new army. Okay, like net new is, and I mentioned this I think a couple weeks back. I want to see a net new death faction, and I want that death faction not to be uh, submitted to Nagash. Okay. And you'd say, okay, Vince, what is in that new death faction?
I got your leader already in my head.
I'm ready. Go for it.
It's Cetra.
Well, look, everybody would love that. Yes, I'm sure. Or some people would love that.
Like
People like
not
me would
just
love that.
like I'm talking what his like he didn't die.
He didn't die.
He didn't technically fall to chaos. I'm saying if you have one character in your backlog to get everybody super excited and get me to finally do a death faction in this edition, um, you bring back the one guy that says, "Hey, oh, you're the god of undeath. I'm coming for you."
Sure.
Oh, what? Like the antagonistic portion of that is just fascinatingly cool. Granted, I don't want him to just have skeletons. I want like I don't know how to imagine it, but like Cetra is the character or the soul,
Yeah, yeah.
like not just a skeleton army. Would be cool. But anyway, sorry, please.
No, no, you're good. So I feel there are a couple areas of this of the undead that haven't been fully fleshed out within AOS. And effectively that has to do with like stitching and flesh crafting. Okay. I understand we got the little Underworld's warband and whatever, right? But I think we could go farther. So we could have uh like what I mean here are things like mummies, certainly, but not just that. I also mean like flesh type golems and stuff like that. Just like constructs of sorts, like undead constructs imbued with spirits. Like, I think that is, um, I think that's a fascinating sort of corner of the undead realm that we don't have within death.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be interesting because they are these spirits trapped in like reconstituted bodies of some kind, be they stone or marble or jade or flesh, right? In other words, like it's that kind of thing. Um,
Does
uh,
that get a little too close to Ozyark though, with some of their constructs and beings kind of just being souls shoved in, not necessarily like free willed?
maybe, maybe I think you could do it differently. I do feel like there's a way to cut that. If it's like
Okay.
mummies and flesh golems and stuff like that, I think it's gonna feel very different. It's gonna but that's my yeah, like exactly. Steampunk necromancy. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, my mind. This isn't. I'm not trying to like constantly pull it back to Tomb Kings, but like the Tomb Scorpion, which is a guy's
Yes.
body whose soul's attached, but he's powering a construct. Like that
100%.
concept
There you
turned
go.
into Sigmar
Yes.
would be great. Okay, I'm there. I'm
Yes.
there.
You with me now? That's what I'm
Yep.
saying,
Yep.
right? Okay. That kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'd be
So,
neat.
like, you could have a lot of different concepts there, like flesh amalgams, mad scientists, necromancers, like just builders. I mean, obviously, people who are like rebels from Nagash who are been siphoning off souls, and then like some leader amongst them who's there.
Well,
Uh,
you could even still have it be a living mortal who's just I can control death. I'm figuring it out, and it's somehow getting around Nagash's power for play or however that works. And it's like you could still have it be it would still be death, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be some dead guy leading it. It can be it could I could see a some sort of mortal type being running that show who maybe made himself undead through the process, but he wasn't born undead through Nagash.
Yeah, exactly. That's and yes, there's like a steampunk science element to this that I think very much will make it feel like the models would obviously look very different than anything in OBR. I think the feel of the army would be very different than OBR. The silhouette would be different. Like,
Mhm.
look, a lot of people are playing with shoving souls in bodies in AOS. That's like a whole thing. So it, like abstracting to a point, yes, everything's the same. IDK is just stealing souls. Stormcast are just shoving souls in like reconstituted Superman
Every elf
bodies,
is
right?
stealing souls. Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, that's not a reason not to do something. But ultimately, will the models look and feel differently? And the answer is yes, 1,000%, right? And so that's that is where I feel like that would be a fun cut from whole cloth, totally new faction, do an interesting thing in death, create an interesting eternal rift in there, bring them back in to the conversation because by the way, the way you could tell the story of their creation is remember Nagash got dumpstered, okay, there some time back and has been like missing in action, retreated. He had to reconstitute himself after Teclis put him in the ground, okay, and so in when he was weakened and had to retreat and his Mortarks had more power and stuff like that and he couldn't run his whole show as tightly as he wanted, that's when this thing cropped up, right? Like you could tell that story. Okay.
Mhm.
Like there's actually an easy narrative hook that's already there in the world for it. Okay. So there you go. All right. So that's like net new. Um boop.
No, interesting.
Just
Is
looking at
you're
all the
looking through that.
comments because there was a lot of thoughts on that stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. Just a concept of what you could build an army off of what's within the setting that it's constantly ignored, and I think it's one of the biggest things that we've seen as far as this exists in this world. Iliatha and the cloning
Yeah.
with Lumineth, like not necessarily make Lumineth, but like what happens if someone nefarious takes that and figures out how to do that too?
Sure.
What kind of army could you create off of someone just cloning the heroes and they're the deformed undead version of this hero
Yep.
because they found the lock of their hair? Like that could tie into yours even to high effect.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah, I was just
No,
like,
no,
man,
it's good. It's good. I love it. Yes, let's play with clones, 100%. And some David Campbell said maybe the bodies aren't animated by souls, but some other mystery power. 100%. They shove like bound endless spell energy to them into them or something. Great.
yeah.
There's like a purple sun powering this monster. Right. Okay. Cool. Like I just took that wild endless spell and just took him and shoved him inside. It's not souls at all. Great. Excellent. Let's go for it. Like, I mean, traditionally, Frankensteinian type monsters like that are often powered by elementals or constructs in like D&D and stuff. So that's fine.
Just put realm stone into them. Just
Yes.
fill them with rocks and let them go.
Fill them with rocks. That's right. So I think that would be cool when we're talking like net new. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other question is like expansions. I think that's something they're more willing to do, right? Like we saw with Gitz having this Goblins on Wolves expansion, right? Where you get like, let's call it 3 to 5 new units of a type that like expands a book. I think on the expansion front, boy, there's a lot of things we could see there. I think your Tyrion thing honestly falls more into the expansion thing, because I think you could do it like you
Yeah,
said, with not
absolutely.
many kits.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you could do Malarian as an expansion of Marathi, right? Where he had like where he sends like himself and his elite units just join the Daughters of Cain. Although that would create the problem. The reason they're not going to do that, the reason I'm gonna let me advance a theory to you, Chuck. Okay. The reason Malarian and that kind of thing isn't there and hasn't joined the Daughters of Cain, okay, is because they decided to name it the Daughters of Cain.
Yeah.
And they're like, in their heads, they're literally like, well, we can't add this guy leader and a bunch of his dudes to the Daughters of Cain. Like, yes, I'm aware that the Doomfire Warlocks exist. I am aware that not everything in the Daughters of Cain is actually a lady, right? But like, I'm betting that somewhere in there that was their thought that they're hung up on, right?
Well, it's the same thing. It's like you'd have to give them a different name for the overarching combination of the two.
Yeah. Absolutely. They'd have to become something new, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, Benjamin. We're gonna get to relaunches and remakes. Yeah. But yeah, like I think the Tyrion expansion would be actually my first up. I just want to see Tyrion in the game. Like I just think he would be cool.
He would be awesome.
I really do. I like that the art they've had of him is amazing. Even though I keep using the other guy.
Yeah, the hints of lore. What just happened with the Phoenicium.
Great.
And then if you look at the banner of the Lumineth Banner Lord, whatever his name is, Bannerblade, it's very clearly half of that's Teclis and Selenar, and the other half's Tyrion and whatever he's riding. And it's very Phoenix Dragon like as far as the silhouette. So
yep,
we're set up. Let's have him.
Absolutely.
No, could I piggyback off of your Malarian coming in as an expansion concept?
Sure.
Because you could have him be his own book, and obviously I think that's where we get the redo versions of all the Dark Elves from Cities.
Sure. I mean, you could just put him in one book and call it like Umbraneth or something, and that would be fine. I don't hate that at all.
But I could see him coming in like, here's a few unique things. They maybe have redone those. But hey, maybe Cthulhu's in his book, and maybe some Witch Elves are in his book. Maybe they're the same, but that's the only thing that ports over. Like, not a gold faction, but they pull back and forth between some of the followers because of just how they function with their silver tongues and such. So maybe, it's not going to be a full army launch. It's here's some portions of these other armies that now work with him, and it's his own army.
Yep. Other expansions, like certainly Fire Slayers could use one, though I don't think they should get it, probably, because I don't think anybody actually buys those models. Like, I don't think they sell well, so I don't think they'll get it, is what I mean. Like, if I was behind the business looking at the sales, and my guess, this is totally my intuition, but just I don't think a lot of people are buying those models. So I'm sorry, Fire Slayers fans. Like, I do apologize, but it just seems like you're
in the skies.
You're probably at the bottom of the totem pole right now, is my guess. But other armies that could use an expansion, there's plenty out there. I think you could do a really good OBR expansion. I think the military might of OBR, there are units that you read in the narrative of OBR that are not in their figures. I think you could do, again, 2, 3, 4, 5 kits, and you would have a very you could do a very reasonable expansion. So this could be like Ballasty and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. But I think that would be fine. A lot of the Fire Slayer people coming out of the woodwork. I knew that comment would do it. For Kenda Chicken, I work at a game store, and that's not my experience. That's a feedback loop. They don't sell because they have no models. They don't have new models because they don't sell. It is. You're right. You're not wrong. Mm-hmm. And then anecdotally, I know a fair number of Fire Slayers players. Sure, like I believe all of you. Okay, I'm just telling you my impression from looking at like games played, percentage representation in the meta, all of these things. Like that's I'm backwards inferring data, but which isn't necessarily true. But you know, that's who knows. Look, if they do get a super cool expansion full of a bunch of stuff, I'm not sad about it. Like, great. If they decide to go down that road and try to build the army out, I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, no one's gonna complain about more Fire Slayers showing up. It's like, oh, neat, cool.
Yeah,
one of the first
great.
actions.
Like, I hope they get their I hope all the Fire Slayers players, all 7 of you, get your thing. Joking aside.
About Ogre Maw tribes.
Okay, so ogres falls into a different category. Let's move to the next category here, okay? Right. Which is, what would we want to see for the refresh capability? Now, again, I think for refresh, you're probably, like, I think you're definitely, like, I think the way they probably have in their head is, like, 1 new army per edition, maybe 1 refresh per year at max, okay? And then, but, like, expansions potentially 2 to 3 per year is probably my suspicion of, like, the pipeline they have, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's people having to sculpt these and print them and paint them. And
right, you've got
a whole process. So
the whole thing. You starting with the artists and the digital renderers and the sculptors and, you know, then the painters who have to do all this and the production facilities and all that kind of thing.
Marketing and
right. So obviously the pipe is only so big. So, like, my guess is that's probably how they have it broken up internally. Like, we'll do 1 new army per edition and, you know, max of 1 expansion per year or 2 expansions per year or something. Or sorry, 1 refresh per year. Apologize. And a max of like 3 expansions per year. Okay. Sorry. There we go. God Santa, why are rules so short-lived in AOS? Capitalism? I don't know what to explain. I guess. You asked me to get at the root cause here? I'm not sure, man. I guess that's really the answer. Yeah, because of the addition grind, and that's what they've decided how they decide they want to run. Okay. Refresh. Ogres. It's ogres, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's
that has to be
ogres.
The answer.
They could have, and like I said, if our Lord and Savior Halo didn't exist, ogres would still look like an 8th edition army to me. He has elevated them in my mind, personally. Yep. All on his own broad shoulders. I love, and trust me, I love the ogre sculpts. I don't have an ogre army, but man, I love the way Heavy Metal paints those models. They look great. But boy, do they just look so basic.
Yep.
And compared to anything else, almost.
I agree. And, like, I'm okay if they, like, resculpt gluttons to look a little more modern, a little more credible, a little more like modern tooling, but keep them the same, basically. Sure. Like, I want them to be kind of the simple end thing there. That's fine. But, like, a just new butcher, a new slaughtermaster, you know? Like new wizard ogres that look really cool, right? And have just like, imagine how those could be redesigned. There's
bring back
so
the War
much
Mammoth.
They could do.
War Mammoth, as far as a huge mount for them, a huge centerpiece. They're big. They're going to be bigger. Their silhouette should be bigger.
Yep. And yes, Liam T. and who else asked? Somebody else asked about it. Sorry. What do you think of the Soulblight rumors? Word is they are supposedly getting a new zombie dragon plus a bunch of Death Rattle stuff. I'd love to see it. Yeah. Like, as far as expansions go, I would call that probably more expansion, refresh, kind of a little of both. Because we saw the leaked image of the new, I want to call them Blood Dragons, but that's not what they are. The Blood Knight boss, hero, on mount. That looks cool as. Yeah. Oh, did you miss this going around? Yeah.
There's been so many leaks, like with Old World and Sigmar. I'm like, I missed that. I need to go find that.
Yes. So, like, yeah, there is a new Blood Knight Lord, basically, is what I would describe him on a mount. Mount looks cool as. Like, it's a great looking model.
That's awesome. That's sick.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I think that's probably what will happen. I don't know if that's expansion or refresh or a little bit of the two. Obviously, these things can all bleed together sometimes. And I think that's great. You know, and Abaddon said, ogres are #1 with a bullet, but I would like to see the old stuff in FEC properly updated. Sure, I mean, the reality is these kinds of, like, expansion/refreshes, that kind of stuff, it just brings a lot of excitement to the army. So, like, it's really what I would much rather see them do. If we were on, like, a reasonable time frame with these edition lengths, and the battle tomes were all there, and we could, like, that's what I would expect. I would expect the Battle Tome to launch with actually like new and exciting things. The reality is, Chuck, that's what happened for most of our existence with Warhammer Fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Battle Tomes were really far apart. I'm not asking to go back to that where you wait like 2 editions
Oh
for
yeah,
a
that's too
Battle
much.
Tome.
That's too much. Yeah.
I
Sweet
don't
spot.
want I don't want to live in that world. Okay. But like when things came out, you got a bunch of new stuff, right? It happened. Not just a foot hero. So either just give me the new Battle Tome and make the Battle Tome full of interesting things, and that's it. That's what I get, and that's fine. Or make it a Battle Tome with a good expansion slash refresh that gives me real items.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to think. I guess goblins could use some refresh, like a minor one for some of the basic troops.
oh, they are so
Yeah,
old.
they're
Yes.
overdue.
I
And then like I
at
said,
the
I
same
find
time, like, fine. Do they really need to be resculpted? I don't know.
yeah, it's my mind always goes to the whole fact that those internal departments can't play nice between Old World and Sigmar. So how much are they fighting over night goblins? You know, like internally, it's
Sure.
like so like that always sways a few thought processes with that too. I mean, if I want my ideal, like what I would like, yeah, ogres number one. I want to see them; they deserve it. But
They're absolutely top of the list, no question.
unless I would love to see them finish off the cities of Sigmar.
Yeah,
Like, give me the new version of. They don't have to be dark elves. They can just be a new version of elves that correlate. You get a new version of depossess. Like, and if you don't want to upgrade those, then figure out what to do with them. Like,
agreed.
where do they belong? Because they're fun and they fit. I think you can make that cosmopolitan option of a city fit, but you really have to play into that with the models.
I hate that we still have those like species barriers in cities at all.
Oh,
I
it's
think
terrible.
it's stupid. Like it should just be integrated units. I've said forever that my one hope for what they would have done with cities was just make like integrated units, right? Like um your knights and your fusiliers and your steel helms and all that. That should just be like a mix of
But yeah,
humans and dwarves and elves and other things. I don't care. Put an ogre in there too. I don't care.
I
Whatever.
would say
Like
the dream concept I never think of. It was my friend Matt, Big M's from my channel.
yes,
But it was if you want to have flavor, okay, here is the basic troop. It has spears, swords. It's a mix, whatever, and it's a mix of all three of those species, those races. And you could choose the sergeant, and the sergeant would change them. I
yes,
have an elf sergeant. We have 1 inch move. I have a dwarf sergeant. I have -1 to whatever rend you have against me, or like I can
sure. Yeah.
less rend.
Gotcha.
I'm a
Gotcha.
human. I can do a command point for free once per game or something in this unit. I
Sure.
just something cool like that would be just mind blowing. And also, can you imagine painting that unit? That'd be so fun.
I agree. Like when I remade before this current book, I when I did my like one of my cities armies, I just mixed a bunch of old troops into like so like this is old cities book, right? But like my great swords are mixes of like human great swords, elvish sword masters, and dwarven hammers or whatever.
Hmm.
Right? I just took like all those old units and put them together, and like that was my great swords unit or whatnot, right?
Yeah,
Because I was
great.
like, cool, this is what they look like, right? They're this, and like this is the rules. Like no, again, I just feel like they could be so much more interesting and have this cosmopolitan army, and it would be a statement about what it is because everything gets so homogenous. Otherwise, it feels so weird in current fantasy year of our Lord 2025 that that's still what we're doing. Like,
Hmm.
okay, these guys can't get together at all, so I don't know. It just feels I don't know. It feels out of date.
It's not wasted potential. I think,
Yes,
within the army itself.
there you go. That's exactly right. Wasted potential. All right, cool, man. We'll be going for about 2 hours. I feel like that's what I wanted
Oh
to
wow,
do. Yeah, I know. Time flies. Good discussion.
it does.
Any final goals or hopes for yourself for 2025, hobby related or
Uh,
otherwise?
I mean, no, just I'm other than all the hobby stuff is trying to get out to more events to play this year. This past year was a much needed kind of pullback from that because I went too many the prior year and I was getting a little burned out. So just getting back out there and like I said, maybe some one day RTTs and a few GTs is my goal to play in this year, whether it's Sigmar, Old World, what have you. Like I said, starting it strong. February, I'll be at Brewhammer for some Sigmar action.
Awesome. Very good. Yeah, for myself, much the same. I got a lot of events lined up this year, doing some fun things that I've already got in the works. So it's going to be. I'm looking forward to all of that this year. Looking forward to that Skaven army being in a good place to start and to keep painting it all throughout the year and many years to come. But otherwise, and I hope all of you achieve all of your hobby dreams and goals and hopes this year. Here's hoping Age of Sigmar 2025 is like our best year ever. I hope we get some really exciting new things that make the game really fun and unique to play. Will Myers, hey Will, how you doing? Happy New Year to you. But Happy New Year to everybody. Here's for a great 2025 for all of you, both in the hobby and in your life in general. Thank you for sticking with us through this year. For all of 2024. Looking forward to an awesome 2025. Thank you to all the people who commented. Thank you to everybody who super chatted and threw some money at the channel. That is really, really deeply appreciated so much. Don't forget to hit like or subscribe and do all those things that make dings on your way out the door. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel more, there's, as I mentioned, the games down below that Uncle Adam and I make, including Death Wizards. Speaking of all the necromantic fun we've been talking about, that's down there. It's almost close to its next badge, so we're trying to push hard. If you haven't picked it up yet, check it out. It's so much fun, and you can use all your fun death models from AOS in it. So there you go, as well as some of your heroes from Cities of Sigmar too, for the quote unquote good guys. But thank you all so much. Everything's down in the description. There's our affiliate links down there. If you've got some hobby money or some Christmas money burning a hole in your pocket, you can hit those up, save some money, and pick up your new stuff. And it helps give the channel a nice kickback. Next week, we'll be back talking about new Auric Warclans book. Tom and I will be here. Tom will hopefully have his... We'll see if... Tom will have his new microphone. Let's see if he has it set up. Will Tom have his new microphone set up before 15 minutes, or let's be real, 5 minutes before showtime when he joins the channel? That's the question. That is the question. Okay? Place your bets now, folks, of whether Tom will actually take that microphone out of the box and set it up before 5 minutes before the show starts. We'll find out. Come back then to find out. Chuck, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me. I always love being on here and chatting Warhammer with you. So yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
Absolutely. And for all of you out there, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And as always, we will see you next Wednesday.